3 hidden relics I bet you didn't know about Tiong Bahru. First, did you know there's a pre-war air raid shelter built right in the heart of Tiong Bahru? How about the fact that the grave of Tan Tock Seng is located just right beside Outram Road? A road where I bet you've driven or ridden by hundreds of times without you knowing of its existence. And third, how about a block of flats here right by the main road, which is almost 100 years old already? Hello property enthusiasts! Yes, in this 7th episode of my series where we explore the most in-demand districts in Singapore where hip expats and locals love to call home, let us discover Tiong Bahru. So, to find out where those places I've showed you earlier are and also visit these low-rise conservation flats, we're wondering why people love to stay here even though they need to climb the stairs every day. Stay tuned to what I'm about to share with you in this video. Oh, if you are new to this channel, I'm Jessica and I bring viewers like you around different estates in Singapore to show you a site that might not be so familiar. Anyway, ready for the tour? Let's go! When we mention Tiong Bahru, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For Gen Xers like me, it's probably the market and food centre. And if you're a millennial, probably Tiong Bahru Plaza comes to mind. But oddly for Gen Zs, Tiong Bahru has become synonymous with trendy cafes, indie boutiques and pre-war flats like this. Before we continue, let me just sadly reveal that more than 90% of viewers of my videos aren't subscribed. I would really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel, especially if you enjoy watching my videos like this one. Help me out, okay? And give a thumbs up to this video too. So, anyway, back to the video. Like the previous ones, I did a bit of research about the history of this neighbourhood. Now, Tiong Bahru has a very rich history dating back to the 1850s. You see, the name of this place is derived from Tiong, or cemetery in Hokkien, and Bahru, or new in Malay. So, this place was literally named after a new cemetery put up in 1859 at the present site of the SGH. Then, in the 1920s, SIT, the old HDB, started building flats to replace the squatters in the area. The first block of SIT flat was ready in 1936 for rental, but at $25 monthly, it was considered out of reach for the masses. A decade later, after World War II, SIT built more flats, and some more years later, when HDB replaced SIT, even more flats were made available, this time for sale. Prices were around $10,000 for a 2-room flat to $22,000 for a 4-room flat. It was only in 2003 when URA gave conservation status to 20 blocks of pre-war SIT flats, when this neighbourhood became a place for trendy cafes and eateries that the younger generation started to come back and tourists began to visit. So really, Tiong Bahru is a place of rich heritage. Are you surprised that the history of this district goes back so far? Okay, let's come back to the present day Tiong Bahru and find out why residents love to stay here. I'm sure the first reason has to be the historical vibes here. I mean, just look at all these pre-war flats that are close to 100 years old already. Altogether, there are 20 blocks that are designated for conservation by the government for not only their historical value, but also for the unusual architect that feature the characteristics of cars, trains and aeroplanes in the 1920s and 30s. Certainly, we don't see such curved staircase railings with porthole windows blended in rounded building corners in our modern-day flats anymore. Anyway, of particular interest is Block 78, nicknamed Horseshoe Block because of its shape from the top. What's so special about this is not only its design, but it also houses one of the earliest air raid shelters built in the 1930s. I believe a visit to this relic can still be booked through the National Heritage Board, and perhaps I should go visit these two one day. Another interesting block is Block 55, which is this block just beside Tiong Bahru Road. If you didn't pay attention, you wouldn't even know that this is the first block of flat to be built here. In fact, I believe this is the oldest block of flat to be built in Singapore. Let me know if you think I am wrong. One more historical find for you at Tiong Bahru. And honestly, if I didn't do the research for this episode, I wouldn't have known that the grave of Tan Tock Seng, yes, the Tan Tock Seng named after the hospital, is situated right here in Tiong Bahru. In fact, it's so right in front of us, yet I bet the majority of Singaporeans don't even know it. Here it is, right beside this bus stop, up on this little hill along Outram Road. Did you know this existed here all along? Okay, anyway, let's move on to the second advantage of staying in Tiong Bahru, which has to be the food options. There are hundreds of cute cafes and hipster restaurants here along the shop houses, too many for me to cover them all. So I'll just point out a few. First, there's Tiong Bahru Bakery. I mean, how can you not think of this place when you come to Tiong Bahru? Yes, you can find them everywhere now, but nothing beats the OG one, right? Second of the list is Poki Eating House. Established since 1996, I've dined here with my family a few times and I remember the standard of the chicha dishes was quite high. Next up, for a taste of the new and IG-worthy is Micro Bakery. This branch at Tiong Bahru is the newest and they serve pretty good coffee in a courtyard bathed in natural light. And next, from the new, comes one of the oldest coffee shops in Singapore, Wabi, which was established way back in the 1940s. This coffee shop is still very popular with the locals here and I was told it is famous for its bulletproof coffee or coffee with butter. And yet, there are plenty more food choices at the world-famous Tiong Bahru Food Centre. It's a lot cleaner and airier now compared to in the early 2000s, but parking is still a bugbear here. If you can visit here, almost all stores serves good food, but of particular mention is these few stores for the long history. Hong Heng Fried Sotong Prawn Mee, which was awarded the Michelin Big Gourmand for a few years running. Tiong Bahru Hainanese Boneless Chicken Rice, opened since 1988. Tiong Bahru Pao and Snack, famous for the dim sum and bao, baked by hand since 1969. Jian Bo Shui Gui, which was founded in 1958. And Tiong Bahru Tau Suan, operated since 1942. Still want more food options? Well, we head to Tiong Bahru Plaza, the only mall here. It's relatively old by mall standards, but with a renovation done a few years back, there are a lot more restaurants and cafes here. The food court here is also pretty good. And if you must, there's always McDonald's. At the time of this filming, we have the spicy McNuggets, which is always a treat. Alright, by now we have established that Tiong Bahru is a food haven. But what else can we do at or around Tiong Bahru? Well, being right in the centre of Singapore, we are really not far from many other notable locations. Chinatown is just next to Tiong Bahru, and next to that we are at the CBD already. River Valley is also north of this neighbourhood, so you can find all the upscale cafes and shops there. Then there's Orchard 2, which is just a few minutes of drive away. Essentially, being in the CCR, you have the advantage of being next door to all the world-class districts for work and play. So with these three reasons, I can understand why some people love to stay here at Tiong Bahru, particularly some foreigners and young couples who find this place so Instagrammable that they must have a home here. Next, let's see what residential options we have here at Tiong Bahru. Properties-wise, we are not looking at a massive township like those in Jurong West, Tampines or Yishun. A good portion of the residential buildings here are low-rise flats and shop houses, which we've seen, with the rest being high-rise flats and condos. So, finding a place to call home here shouldn't be a problem, as we have housing catering to all budgets. So, let's start with the most affordable options, the flats. First up, there's this pre-war flat at 44 Mo Guan Terrace. It's a rather small 3-room flat at 646 square feet. At 708,000, the asking is rather high considering the age. But if you must own a piece of heritage, this will be the price to pay. But if you just need a roof over your head, there are similar sized 3-room flats a few minutes walk away. This one is just asking for 368,000 and is 20 years newer. But don't think all flats in Tiong Bahru are old. There are those new skyscraper flats that are asking for the sky, such as this one, 1.6 million for a 5-room flat, and it's not even at the higher floor. Would you buy such a flat? Next, we visit the shop houses and shop house units here. First up is this unit in the oldest block of flats. At 1.5 million for a 1,500 square feet apartment, it seems like good value. And as you can see, the ID is pretty nice too. But taking a look at the lease, we have less than 40 years left. Would you pay such a price to have bragging rights to staying in the oldest residential apartment in Singapore? Next up is this walk-up apartment that's designed in a minimalist form. At 3.48 million for 3,200 square feet of space, including a rooftop terrace, I think it's good value, considering this is in a conservation building. What do you think? Last on this list is this industrial-looking shop house unit. Priced at 2.25 million for 1,754 square feet, it seems like a great deal at first. But you really must have very deep pockets since you have like 14 years of lease left. But tell me if this is not a nice looking apartment. Lastly, let's take a look at some of the condo options that we can find in this district. Tiong Bahru newest condo is High 9 Residences. TOP in 2018 was all the rave back then. Today, a 3-bedroom unit here is asking for 2,400 per square feet. A bit high if you ask me, but in terms of location, you can't complain. This particular unit is asking for 2.7 million, and I think the idea is pretty good, don't you think? Next is this condo next to Tiong Bahru Plaza called Mera Prime. I remember viewing this project when it was launching back in the early 2000s. Today, the asking price is a hefty 2,000 per square feet. Sounds reasonable, especially if you intend to buy to stay, and this particular 3-bedroom unit seems like a good deal. But I think what really interests me is this new project, which is going to be one of the most iconic buildings in Singapore, more so when it's perched on Pearl's Hill, called One Pearl Bank. I visited the show flat a few times, and honestly, in today's market, 3-bedroom units priced from 2.5 million still represent rather good value considering the location. So, what do you think of Tiong Bahru? I mean, it's a really chic and hip area filled with good food options and it's very central. Plus, you are right within one of the most historical estates in Singapore. In fact, you can call the oldest apartment block in Singapore your home. What more can you ask for? So, if you need some help in looking for an ideal property to stay or invest in Tiong Bahru, or in fact anywhere in Singapore, feel free to contact me. In any case, thank you for joining me on our tour of Tiong Bahru in this video. I really discovered a lot of fun facts while researching on this episode. And if you like what you're watching, do like and subscribe to my channel, okay? Because I'll continue to uncover more of Singapore's diverse neighbourhoods in future episodes. Lastly, remember that for personalised advice on anything property related, partner with me on your property journey. I'm Jessica and I'm just one step away to getting your dream home in Singapore. I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Bye!